Okay, my friends, are you ready? It's time now to open the Word of God. If you have your Bibles, I'd like you to turn to the book of Ruth. It's an early book. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. I'm doing the kids thing. When I do the kids Bible study, I always go through the books of the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth. Actually, in Hebrew, it's Ruth. Say Ruth. Well, we say Ruth. Sounds better than root, right? But Ruth. That is the name of a young woman who was from Moab, a Moabite. Now, the place of Moab is pretty famous, whether you know it or not. Ever heard of Petra? That's Moab, that area. Very rocky. You don't grow much in Petra unless you have water that comes down, and you can save water. That's as they did at Petra. They would save water, and then they would have cisterns, and then you cultivate the ground. But on its own, it doesn't grow like it did in Bethlehem. Well, this man, this individual who had families, and Naomi was the mom. The guy is, let's see if I forgot his name right now, but forgive me, Elimelech, the husband of Naomi. Elimelech. El, do you know what El means? God. Eli, my God. Malek means king. So God is my king. He's in the house of bread, Bethlehem. House of bread. And he decides to move with his family to Moab, which is not the house of bread, for sure. Big surprise. When he moves to Moab, he discovers a famine happens. If you're not in the place where you can grow lots of bread, what's going to happen during famine? It's really bad off. Have you ever had a situation in your life where maybe you made a decision, changed something in your life, maybe moved somewhere, or took a job, and the minute you take that job, it seems like it becomes like a famine? In the beginning, it feels not so great. Okay, I'm surviving, but then famine happens, meaning now there's less money, less commerce, people start moving out. Kind of felt like that here. Remember in the days of the pandemic? I came to this church, right? And we had our people, and then all of a sudden this pandemic hits, and boy, whoosh. Sunlandanga was more difficult, actually, because a lot of people moved to other states. Gone. And you go, Lord, why? Right? You experience that. Who here has said the word why to God? Yeah. So, this is a hard life. And of course, Elimelech brings his family. They marry two ladies. There's Orpah, a Moabite, who marries a Hebrew. And then there's Ruth, that marries her other son, his other son. Naomi is there. And then Elimelech dies. Sickness comes. He dies, and not only him, but the two boys die. Seems like all the men are getting wiped out of this story, huh? Now there's just Naomi, the mom, and now she's got these two daughter-in-laws. In the ancient world, when your husband dies, especially in the pagan world, meaning Moab, that area, what happens to you? Who cares for you? In fact, the difficulty is actually many people had to succumb to lifestyles that were not good at all. Because how do you get money as a female when you're already married and they died? And you know, in the superstitious world, is like, what, your husband died? Well, you know, superstition, right? I'm not talking Israel. I'm not talking about where Israel was, even though they were superstitious as well sometimes. I'm talking Moab. This is in the time of the judges, meaning his difficult times, the monarchy. David was not established on the throne yet. In fact, Ruth was the great-great-grandmother of David. Life was not easy at all during these times. For Israel even had turned away from God in multiple ways. So the first thing Naomi says is, she says, you know what, Orpah, Ruth, I got to go back to my house and my family. I've got to go back to Bethlehem, the house of bread. Even though there's famine, I'm going to get over there. At least there's some bread at the house of bread, even if it's a small amount, right? You guys stay here. You're young. Maybe you can find another guy. Maybe you can work things out. You're better off than I am. I'm an old person and I just need to go back and find my family, and hopefully my life won't be totally bitter. But that's what she called herself, bitter, Mara. The word Mara is what she used, bitterness. Don't raise your hand, but if you felt bitterness in your life. Okay, so let me read here. Interesting text. So, verse 8. Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law. This is in Ruth chapter 1, verse 8. Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant each of you that you will find rest in home with another husband. Because they're young, right? Maybe a guy will marry you, or maybe not. I don't know. Then she kissed them goodbye. They wept aloud. Verse 10. And they said to her, we will go back with you and with your people. But here's Naomi. This is, you know, I honestly, every time I read this story, I get those tinges. Naomi, think about it. Why is it Naomi says this? One reason is because actually she doesn't want Moabites with her. She's going back to Israel, right? Why am I going to have these guys with me? They don't have family. And by the way, what will they think of me when I have a bunch of these guys from another nation with me? Get what I'm saying here? Naomi. Return home, your daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? You understand her argument? By the way, in the ancient world, that's what happened. When a child in the family, a son, married someone, and that son died, in common law, Canaanite common law, the next son was to marry that woman, so that that woman is not forced into prostitution. It's hard when there's no social structures. I mean, we live in a world right now where there's actual, social nets, safety nets for people. If you lose your job, at least there's something, right? You may have, Medicare or Medicaid, or you can apply for it. None of that in the ancient world. Zero. You just sit at home like the woman and her son when Elisha blessed them with oil. They said, we're just going to eat our last meal and we're going to die. It's done. Because nobody cares. God had set up Israel to be able to help each other, but the problem is that was the ancient world. So she says, I'm not going to have any other kids. I got no other kids. Are you going to wait? In fact, she says it right here. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could come with your husbands? Verse 12, return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. And even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a what? Husband tonight, and then gave birth to 2 sons, would you what? Wait. This word is a powerful word. It's a word, saver, savar, savar. It's like this. You have to move your mouth, like that, It's not an E, it's an A sound, but it's it's saver. And it's kind of weird because usually the shin is a sh sound with the dot on this side. But this one, the dot is on the other side. What is it, the sigol or anyway, never mind. Get the words right. So the holam is on the other side, so it's the sin word, sin. And we think of it as sin in English, but it's just a letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Sever, saver. Would you wait? Would you, think about it, my friends. Would you wait? If Naomi, provided she could still have children at that moment, had a husband right now, and we're going to have kids, are you going to wait for the brothers to show up that might not ever what? Are you going to wait? First answer is no. Right? Nope. No, that's kind of weird anyway, if you think about it. The answer is no, not going to happen. Would you wait? I'd like you to let's go to another place where this word is used. I'd like you to go to Esther chapter 9, the middle of your Bible, a little bit before Psalms. Esther chapter 9. We're going to use this word saver again, this word to wait. Let's see some little changes on it based on the context so we can understand really what she's saying and what then Ruth is about to say. Verse 9, chapter 9 of Esther, verse 1. The 13th day of the 12th month, in the month of Adar, the edict, command by the king, was carried out. On this day, the enemies of the Jews had sevar, here it says hoped. Did you notice that? Hoped to overpower them. Had thought about the idea that, waited makes sense. We have been waiting for this moment, right? Because we're hoping on it. Hope isn't hope until you realize you have no hope. I know that's one of those very complicated ones. If you think about it, it makes sense. Hope is not hope. Well, let's go to another one. Let's go to the book of Psalms for a second. Use the same word again. Sorry, I'm in linguistics today. Don't worry, we're going to look at, today it's going to be King Tut. You're going to see the great king. Took a while, but we had to hope. Takes a while. I want you to wait for a little bit. I want you to saver, okay, with me. So, we go to Psalms chapter 104. I know Psalms is one of those big books, lots of difference. 104, 104. another time that the word saver is used. Verse 27. Can you find it? I know it takes a while here. Got to give you some time. Da, 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 da. Almost there? All right, Psalms 104, verse 27. All creatures saver to you. Do you notice it's to look to you? Do you see how deep this word is? Different ways it can be defined. But if you think about it, it makes sense. All creatures wait on you. And it says, to give them food at the proper time. The psalmist is writing here saying that God is the one that feeds everyone. And the animals are looking to God for food, which is true. You know, if you're a lion and you're walking around on the savannah, you don't always find a gazelle, right? Sometimes you find a mangy dog and you say, I don't want to eat that. Or maybe the bird is looking for the right seeds. And you're flying and they're looking for it. Or the eagle is flying over the ocean. He looks down and does he see the fish? All animals wait on God, hope on him. Do you see this universal thing? How the Bible sees these animals as God sees you. Even when the sparrow falls. Remember those words of Jesus? When the sparrow falls. All creatures look to you. They hope on you. Go again, now in the book of Psalms again. Let's move forward just a little bit. 119. Sorry if I make you run around in the Bible a lot. We're going to get to King Tut very soon. So 119, verse, you're going to love this, 166. The longest book of the Bible is Psalms 119. It goes forever through the entire alphabet. If you'll notice you'll notice in the NIV, you'll see they'll actually put the resh here, and it's in the sin or shin area. You'll notice that if you have an NIV, you can see what the letter sin or shin looks like. It doesn't have the dot, so it could be either one. And it's right under there, under the sin symbol for saver, to wait or to hope, is right here, verse 166. Psalms 119, 166. I, what? Saver for your salvation, Lord. And I follow your commands. Do you see how this works? I wait on you, God. And by the way, we Seventh-day Adventists know about waiting. Since 1844, our denomination, we thought that Jesus was coming in 1844, and then the great disappointment happened, which broke us into 4 different parts. But one stuck to it and said, God wasn't telling us it's the second coming at that date. He's telling us something else. And we kind of gained from Daniel 8. We kind of started gaining, well, what is it God's doing? In other words, it's not just about us. God has something he's doing. And we've been waiting, hoping, looking, praying, examining. When is he going to come? Are you still waiting for God? Raise your hand, man. I hope you're waiting on him, because I'm telling you, he has a plan, but sometimes we don't like to have paciencia. Who does? I don't like patience. I wished my dad was alive for the second coming. But you know what? In the museum, I have John Hammond from Jurassic Park, which a lot of people said he looks like John Hammond. So he's doing it, and he has his finger pointing up. I said, that's Dad right there. Boom. Got a little less of a weight thing, you know. But second coming, you know, new body, we're good. Right? And by the way, At that second coming, Dad's going to explain to everybody what's happening, whether they want to hear it or not. We wait. We wait. In fact, one more. I'm going to push you into the New Testament for a second. Actually, no. Proverbs. One more. Proverbs. Right after the book of Psalms. Proverbs. 19:11. Are you almost there? We're getting to the story. We're going to see Tut soon, I promise you. But you have to what? Saver. You have to hope that we're going to get to it, that Pastor John will not forget that King Tut is there, because he's coming. Okay. Proverbs chapter 19, verse 11. A person's wisdom yields what? Patience. What yields patience? Wisdom is something we don't have. We're never taught that. Will you wait? And you know what? I am somebody that's had to wait a lot. Believe you me. If you're going to be a good pastor, well, I hope I'm a good pastor, but if you're going to be a good pastor, you need to learn to wait. You don't give up on people when they mess up, because you're going to see a lot of messing up. I've learned to trust in Jesus, but I verify everybody else, right? We're going to go to the book of Romans in a second, chapter 8. Go to the book, but I have a story for you. A man named Howard Carter, and that means, Joe, I'm going to be moving a lot, so keep that camera going. A man named Howard Carter, which was basically the real originator of this type of archaeologist, right? There was Flanders Petrie before. He was a Frenchman. He was very good, by the way. In Egypt, he wasn't allowed to be in Egypt because, British and the French and all that back then, they were all arguing, everybody arguing all the time about something. He actually dressed up as a woman to get into Egypt. Now, Flanders Petrie met Howard Carter, and Howard Carter studied under Flanders Petrie. But Howard Carter was much more of a bit of the indie type style. Howard Carter grew up in England, and his dad was an artist. And he learned how to use watercolors well. In fact, when he was young, his father said, why don't you go to a very rich family? They have some objects for you to paint. And he was actually commissioned to paint some of those. Many of them had come from ancient Egypt. This was 1880s to the 90s. He learned how to paint the different art that they found in Egypt. But you know what? What's hard is the kings were known and kind of seen. But the problem is all of these tombs had been desecrated always. You go in and everything's been torn apart and all the gold's been stolen. And there's just a couple things here and there that you kind of try to figure out. So you try to have your wall drawings and figure out the culture. But they never knew how a king was buried. Because all of these guys, after Pharaoh was put in there, they put the seal and it says, death shall come with swift wings on all who desecrate the tomb of Pharaoh. And guess what happens? The guys dig themselves in there. In fact, Jesus talked about this. He said, don't treasure the treasures where the thief can dig in and steal. That's exactly what they did. They dug into the grave and stole. They unwrapped mummies and grabbed pieces everywhere and ran for the hills selling them. So they find these relics all around the place instead of in the tombs, so they never really knew how the tombs were. As he was drawing, Howard wanted to be able to one day find an undisturbed tomb. He was sent to Egypt by this benefactor to go do drawings because he was so good at it. But while he was there, he met Flanders Petrie, and Flanders Petrie was kind of a methodical, even though he dressed up like a girl to get into Egypt, he was kind of this methodical guy. He learned to kind of take it slow, because when you find stuff, you can't just come bulldoze in. You have to find out how it's set and why it's set there. Wow. Howard Carter, he put this to a perfect, in fact, modern archaeology is set up on the Howard Carter version. Not so much the Indiana Jones that comes in and just grabs stuff, but the more of this type, the Buona hat type, that goes in and catalogs everything, writing in the little book. Okay, and you lick the pencil and you start to draw. You draw and you write, okay, and then you create a grid. And he was good at that. He learned how to do that grid. He starts to grid things out to be able to find stuff, know exactly how it's supposed to be put together. And he was good. But he always had this dream to be able to find an undisturbed tomb. Well, here's the funny thing. Howard Carter also had a mouth on him. One day when he was in Cairo, and the French were big into archaeology back in those days. The French had a kind of a violent thing among the Egyptians, the people of Cairo. And of course, Howard Carter chose the side, saying that the French were in the wrong and the Egyptians were right in this. That got him on the outs with government. Whether it's British or French, you always choose them over the locals. And he had no job for 4 years. So he started making money. He actually went up the Nile back to Thebes, or what we call today Luxor, which is where a place called the Valley of the Kings is. And he was asked to go to the Valley of the Nobles, which is off to the east side, or the south side of the Valley of the Kings. The Valley of the Nobles are the ones that are the designers of the tombs. They're the ones that had the money, but they're not kings. Then there's the Valley of the Queens that's on the northern side. That's where Hatshepsut was and many others. And we talked about Hatshepsut, I believe, last week, right? In fact, he found, and I have a copy of it up in the museum, he found a scarab, which was like the present newspaper of the time. They'd write hieroglyphics, information, and it had the official cartouche. You know what a cartouche is? It's a round thing, like this. Have you seen that? It looks like this, and it has some hieroglyphics. It's a proper name. So every time you go, this is a little fun fact. When you go to Egyptology, you look at hieroglyphics. If you see the little round thing, that's cartouche, meaning it's a proper name. You take them and you make it, now you're not changing ideas. You take those ideas like the avian, like the bird. Now it becomes an ah sound when you see the bird, ah. And anywhere the bird's nose goes, that's how you read it. Or he's standing this way, or you read it this direction, because the bird always tells you. The A always tells you where you're supposed to go, right? And so that's how Egyptology and hieroglyphics works. So he was learning these things, drawing out. But he had no real job. He was just getting jobs. Until a guy, a lord, I love it. I always say Lord Vader. And I have to get this because I'm so bad at remembering his name. I do not know why, but it's Lord Carnarvon. Carnarvon. Whatever. It's a lord from Britain. He's an earl of Carnarvon. Anything with a lot of vowels in it, I mess up. So anyway, Carnarvon. Lord Carnarvon and Lady, his sister, and I don't remember her name, but they were both together, and they wanted to find something. They had money. They wanted to find a tomb. that had been undisturbed. And this was perfect for him because Howard Carter had always wanted to find a tomb undisturbed. He was happy, and immediately he got to work. Boy, he started going. He had guys working, and they moved over season 1. By the way, you know what a season is in Egypt? You don't dig in August. You don't dig in April because you die in Egypt. You dig from about September until about March, and then you stop. One season goes by, and all they found is tons of rock. He started demolishing some huts that were for people. I mean, it's when you say a hut in Egypt, it's a house. Demolishing some houses that had been there that nobody lived in. It was just like in and out, kind of thing where someone comes, oh, there's a place, I can sleep here. It's near the Valley of the Kings. Cool. Welcome to Egypt back in the 1800s to the early 1900s. And it's about 19 right now, 18, about 1918. Another season goes by, absolutely nothing found. Lord Carnarvon starts to get a little annoyed and tired, but he says, okay, we're going to keep going. Season 3. Season 4. Now remember, money is going out of Lord Carnarvon's pocket for Howard Carter to work. And it's not like Howard Carter is just messing around. He's working, man. And he's working with his Egyptian, the local people there, man, because that's how it went. You get together, they cared about it. They wanted to have something done. And in fact, it was some of the stories are amazing with these Arabs or Egyptian. Egyptian is a little different than just the straight Arab. And but they're working together to try to get it done. And if you see Raiders of the Lost Ark, you kind of see Salah and guys like that working, as they're busy. It's not fun digging in Egypt. It's rocks and rocks and rocks and rocks and rocks all day long. And they're paying these guys, and he keeps trying to sift. And archaeologists do this. You have this little grid thing, and you have also, like panning also. You got to pan and make sure you don't miss anything. And man, it's a lot of hard work. And at the end of season 6, Lord Carnarvon says, I'm done. I don't have any money anymore. We got to stop. He started getting angry because he says, I heard you were good. You know how it is. Welcome to rich people. Come walking in with a martini. I thought you were good at this. And Howard Carter says, we're trying. Okay, give me one more season. Season number 7. It's a perfect number. Let's stick with it. Right? Okay. Lord Carnarvon agrees. And around the end of August into September, they start going. One day, about the middle of October, in the morning, Howard Carter comes in, and the guys have been working, and all this dirt had been moved for seasons and seasons, and nothing's been found. But right at the base, leading underneath, Ramses the 5th and 6th tomb. That is the main one you see whenever you go to the Valley of Kings, right in dead center. On the side and at an angle, they found a footstep. Like you can see a footstep. It's made out of stone. Obvious it's been made. It's a step of some kind. You start getting that feeling. Is it just going to be Ramses' bathroom, or is it going to be something, right? Wait. My friends, when we wait on God, it's not easy. I'm going to stop the story. I have now an advertisement for everyone from the book of Romans. Our station breaks, right? For a moment. Romans chapter 8. I'd like you to turn with me if you have it. Romans chapter 8, 24. Actually, I'm going to go to verse 22. Romans 8. This is New Testament, Romans 8, 22. We know that the whole of creation has been what? Groaning. Did you notice that? Here we are again with a universal God talking about how all of nature, remember that? We talked about it in one of the verses, how the birds even rely on him, or the T-Rex, whatever it is relying on God. Well, here we go again in connection with something very important. Groaning as in the pains of childbirth, right up to this present time. Verse 23. Not only so, but we ourselves, who are the first fruits from the Spirit, we groan inwardly as we what? I didn't hear you. This is New Testament. I understand it's New Testament. And no, I can't take this phone call. I'm in the middle of a sermon. We'll let them wait. Right? They can hope for me to call back. Sorry. All right. We wait eagerly for our what? Adoption to, by the way, ladies, it says sonship, but that also says basically adoption as a child, as an heir to the kingdom. Men and women, because, I know we're very big into the whole, whether it's male or female in English, but in the ancient world, if you said male, it meant everyone. It's just that simple. So let's continue. So for adoption as childship and the redemption of our what? You mean our bodies are going to be redeemed, not just our spirit, because soul means body plus spirit. Even our bodies that are racked with difficulty. We're waiting for it. We're in groaning process right now. All of us are. Verse 24. For in this hope we were what? By the way, did you notice that word hope? Before it said wait, and now it says in this what? Hope we were saved. But hope that is what? Seen is no hope. What? At all. Now this is something for you to understand. And I'm telling you, you in your Christian walk will have, I know it's not easy. We love now. I order at McDonald's, and when I get there, I don't know. I don't order online. But anyway, never mind. But I just say it. I order at McDonald's. I already said it. I want my double cheeseburger with the French fries and the what? The shake. That's right. The shake right now. When I get here, it needs to be done. Uber Eats, right? This is how we are as human beings. It never was this way before. We human beings, oh my goodness, have you heard stories of stuff? You may have heard stories about your parents, grandparents. It was way worse even way back. Way back. In this we wait. But you know what? We wait, we hope, but if we see it, that means it's not hope. Who's going to wait for something they already got, right? For this hope we were saved. But hope that is seen is no hope at all. Who hopes for what they already have? Verse 25. But if we hope for what we do not yet have, we wait patiently. That's hard. I'm sorry, but that's hard. There are so many things I've wanted and haven't seen. So many things I need changed, and yet they haven't changed. So many congregations that I think I could have, but I don't get. So many awesomeness So many toys I want that don't come. So many cars I'd like to have that work that don't. By the way, I repaired all 4 tires last week. And guess what I did? I got 4 used tires. They all look kind of alike. And they drive nice. $250 is a lot better than $1,000, so I'm good. I was like, hey, guys, you go, man. I like it. Hopefully it lasts longer than 5 minutes, but we'll find out. We all wait, right? We all wait patiently for whatever it is. All of us are the same. I know we all have our own specifics that we're dealing with, but everybody deals with this. Everyone. We all deal with our own personal heavens and hells in our life. But yet, if we wait patiently. Carter, by the way, it doesn't mean I'm just going to sit there like this. I'm waiting, God, give it to me. We actually are working towards it. In fact, it says here that the Spirit helps us in our weakness. Right there, verse 20, whichever number that is, 26. In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not even know what to pray for, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us with groans that we don't understand. He searches our hearts and knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for God's people in accordance with the will of God. Do you see what Paul is saying here? The reason why you keep searching for what is better in your life is because God put that in you. He's working through your situation. You think you are alone, you are not. He is walking with you. Howard Carter was digging, and one day he found a footstep. And they started to go, and it's just dig, 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 dig. Okay, so, but by the way, he was very careful with it, because you know there's a lot of thieves that could come at night. So you have the guys sleeping there. And interestingly enough, he dug it all through, down, and the doorway, sorry, I don't want to give my bald spot to the camera, but the doorway is here, and up in the left-hand corner, there was a break in the door. And right below that, down below, was a cartouche. Remember a cartouche? A seal with the official name of Tutankhamun. Tutankhamun. Tut, we like to affectionately call him. King Tut. The boy king. He died around age 16. We know that now. He looked and peered with a light through the hole, and he was asked by Lord, the dude that gave him the money. Never mind. I just always mess it up. Lord Vader says, no, just Lord, he says, do you see anything? He says, I see wonderful things. But they couldn't get to it just yet. They had to cover it back up again. Why? Because they don't have everything they need to get in there. It's kind of like you cover it all back up because someone's going to come. Don't say a word to anybody, because that place is locked down. If we come back, someone else discovers it. So they covered it all back up again, but they knew where it was. They went to go get all the tools they needed and all the electrical stuff they needed and all the generators they needed. And we think about it not as a big deal. It's a huge deal. You need a generator powering electricity. You need to have all the cords. You need to have all the things. You need wire to be able to lock locations so you can specifically, like an archaeologist, you can cut through and discover where everything is so you can reproduce exactly how it looked when you found it. Because that will give you clues as to how the world worked back then. They come back and dig it back out. Open the door. Of course, they had to inform the Egyptian authority. So you know how it is, paperwork, right? Finally, they got in there. My friends here, I know I might have put you to sleep. No, there we are. All right. Joe, let's take a look. Let's see what he looks like. You want to see? Actually, this is the first look he got of him, because there were like 5 different boxes that he was in until he got to one of these. But here we go. Here we have him. Are you ready? Oh, never mind. Sorry, he's from the mummy. All right, never mind. But we discovered what mummification and how it worked for the first time. Now we know he had to go through. And by the way, he was meticulous, and there were shoes that were there, but all the strings of the shoes, when you touch them, they just. So he had to restring them exactly the way they were. The leather stuck, but the actual material. And he had to make sure before it was moved, it was done right. Categorized, pictured, locked in its position, and then carefully moved, each piece at a time, until Tutankhamun unwrapping the body and finding out that how they wrapped them. There were over 144 different little charms and gold and jewels in the wrappings. We never knew that before. No wonder the thieves just unwrapped them. They wanted it all, right? So that's why you only see the mummy just laying there in the corner, because the guys went like this and ran away with his stuff. And then death came with swift wings on. Never mind. But the thing is, by the way, Lord Carnarvon, Lord Carnarvon, he died 4 months later. He barely got to see much. An infected mosquito bite. In fact, the press, because it was such a big deal, the media talked about the curse of the mummy. And that's where it came from, the idea of the curse of the mummy. It must be because they went in with death on swift wings. But my friends, waiting on God means you have to do things and work towards it. But that doesn't mean it's all going to come right now. Here is the part where you are a part of. You're a part of all of it, but really the serious part that I want you to take home and put in your pocket. God answers for us. He doesn't answer in ways we want, but he answers in ways that work best for us, whether we know it or not. Waiting on God, waiting, hoping, praying on God will never bring us to what we want, but it will always bring us to where he wants us to be. Now, how do we reconcile our happiness with that? Remember, hope is not hope if we already think we know what the answer is. Maybe that hope is something that makes us more able to have true happiness. I know true happiness, sometimes we think perfect health and everything going perfectly. Maybe that doesn't bring us happiness. Have you ever thought about that? There's a lot of people in Hollywood. P. Diddy's going through a trial right now. Happiness hasn't come to him. Maybe happiness is finding our way from this place to that place. God bless you all.